Why millennials never feel like enough. They were the generation raised on a promise. Work hard, get good grades, follow your passion, and everything will fall into place. Nobody told them the world was about to change the rules. Think about it for a second. They got trophies for showing up. Not because they were spoiled, but because someone believed positive reinforcement would build unstoppable confidence. It didn't quite work out that way. Then came the timing nobody could have planned for. They graduated straight into a collapsing economy. The jobs they were promised simply weren't there anymore. Some moved back in with their parents. Not out of laziness. Out of necessity. And the world quietly judged them for it. Have you ever felt like you were behind on a schedule nobody actually wrote down? Married by 28. House by 30. Career established by 35. Millennials inherited the checklist. But the economy underneath it had already crumbled. So they adapted. They delayed milestones their parents took for granted. Not because they didn't want them. Because the math simply didn't work anymore. And then something else arrived that no generation had ever faced before. A constant, curated window into everyone else's life. Social media didn't just connect them. It quietly taught them to compare. Someone else's vacation. Someone else's promotion. Someone else's seemingly perfect home. All visible, all the time, without context. Imagine trying to feel proud of your progress, while endlessly watching a highlight reel of everyone else's. That's not envy. That's exhausting. Psychologists call it social comparison, and millennials experienced it at a scale no generation had before. Here's something interesting. Unlike Generation X, who learned to rely on no one, millennials were raised to seek feedback constantly. Grades, likes, performance reviews, comments. Validation became part of how they measured their own worth. So when the world stopped affirming them the way it used to, it didn't just feel disappointing. It felt disorienting. Then came hustle culture. Work became identity. Rest became something you had to earn. Being busy turned into a badge of honor. And burnout became so common, it needed its own name. Not because millennials were weak. Because they were taught that exhaustion was the price of ambition. There's also something quieter underneath all of this. Many millennials became the primary emotional support system for their own parents. Financial stress, family conflict, aging relatives. They absorbed adult responsibilities early, often while still building their own stability. Nobody prepared them for that role. They simply grew into it, quietly, without complaint. Of course, this isn't the whole story. Millennials also became the generation that questioned things previous generations never dared to. Why should success mean sacrificing your mental health? Why should a job define your entire identity? Why should struggling in silence be considered strength? They didn't inherit those answers. They had to build them. Think about that for a moment. They're the bridge generation. Old enough to remember a world without the internet. Young enough to grow up entirely shaped by it. That in-between position taught them something rare. How to adapt when the ground never stops shifting. Have you ever met someone who seems constantly self-aware, constantly examining their own patterns? That reflection isn't overthinking. It's a skill they built out of necessity. Because when the old rules stopped working, someone had to write new ones. Maybe that's the real story here. Millennials didn't fail to meet expectations. The expectations themselves were built for a world that no longer existed. And somewhere between crushing student debt and collapsing job markets, they quietly redefined what success even means. Not a house. Not a title. Not someone else's timeline. just a life that actually feels like their own. And maybe, after all of this, that's not falling behind at all.